Why does a woman, who for years seemed comfortable in her own skin, suddenly start dressing better, sharper clothes, carefully chosen perfume, a new hairstyle she never bothered with before? Psychology tells us something unsettling: drastic changes in appearance are almost never random. Studies show that when people shift their self-presentation, it usually reflects an internal shift, desire, guilt, secrecy, or sometimes even rebellion. Think about it. A person doesn't just wake up one morning and completely rewrite the way they look. There's a motive, whether conscious or hidden. Maybe she wants to be noticed, but by whom? Maybe she's trying to reinvent herself, but for what reason? Or maybe, and this is where it gets dark, she's hiding something she can't say out loud. In human behavior, the body speaks before the mouth does. Clothes, style, and grooming often reveal truths that words carefully conceal. A sudden transformation can be a red flag, one that whispers about validation, forbidden excitement, or even betrayal. Tonight, we're going to explore the 5 chilling psychological reasons why women suddenly dress better, and why ignoring these signs can blind you to what's really happening behind closed doors. The psychology of sudden change. Why does sudden change feel so unsettling? Think about it. When someone you know, especially someone close to you, suddenly shifts their behavior, it feels like the ground beneath you just moved. For years, maybe she dressed casually, without much care. Then suddenly, she appears polished, glowing, and almost like a different person. Your gut reacts first, long before your mind catches up. That gut feeling isn't paranoia. It's psychology. Human beings are creatures of habit. The brain is wired to stick with routines because they feel safe. That's why drastic, overnight changes don't usually happen without a trigger. Psychologists call this behavioral rupture, when someone breaks away from their normal patterns because something, or someone, has shaken their inner world. But here's the disturbing part: sudden improvement isn't always about self-love or growth. Sometimes, it's about hiding guilt or fulfilling a new desire. When a woman who never cared much for appearance suddenly invests in new clothes, makeup, or perfume, it may be her unconscious way of preparing for a different audience. She isn't just changing her look, she's changing her identity. Case studies show this clearly. In one psychological study, women who reported infidelity were twice as likely to report sudden changes in fashion choices, personal grooming, and even gym attendance, compared to women in stable, faithful relationships. It wasn't a conscious strategy. They didn't say, "I'm cheating, so I'll look better." Instead, it was their subconscious mind driving them to align with a new reality. This is what makes change so chilling. The human mind often betrays itself. Words can lie, but actions whisper the truth. And the truth often slips out in the smallest, most visible ways. But let's not jump too quickly. Change isn't always proof of betrayal. Sometimes, it's about seeking validation, regaining lost confidence, or escaping boredom. Yet here's the problem: if you've known someone's patterns for years, and they suddenly break them without explanation, the mind naturally asks, why now? Consider this: if a woman starts dressing better after a breakup, it makes sense, she's reclaiming herself. If she does it after landing a new job, again, it makes sense, new role, new expectations. But if she does it suddenly, without any clear external reason, psychology teaches us to look deeper. Because human beings rarely act without cause. And when that cause is hidden, it often involves something unspoken. The darkness here lies in the fact that our instincts are often right. We sense betrayal not because we're suspicious by nature, but because the subconscious signals are impossible to hide forever. Change in dress, style, or effort isn't just fashion, it's communication. It's a silent message, and once you learn to read it, you can't unsee it. So, the next time someone close to you changes suddenly, don't dismiss that uneasy feeling. Psychology suggests it's not paranoia, it's perception. Attraction vs. guilt, the hidden drivers of change. Every action has a hidden motive. When a woman begins to dress better, wear perfume more often, or suddenly invest in her looks, two powerful psychological forces usually stand behind it: attraction or guilt. Both are deeply human, but both reveal more than words ever could. Let's start with attraction. Attraction is a primal force. It makes us want to display our best version, even without realizing it. Think of it like peacocks spreading their feathers. Humans do it too, but in subtler ways. A woman who feels drawn to someone new may unconsciously begin to present herself in a way that feeds that attraction. New clothes, different hairstyles, more attention to detail. It's not always a calculated decision. The brain's reward system, fueled by dopamine, pushes her to look the way she feels. But then there's guilt. This is where things get darker. Psychology tells us that guilt doesn't always make people pull away. Sometimes, it pushes them to overcompensate. A guilty mind says, if I look better for my partner, maybe he won't notice something's wrong. Or, if I act extra caring, he won't suspect me. This is the paradox of guilt. It can make people hide by being more visible. Dressing better, smiling more, suddenly putting effort into things they once ignored. These can be guilt-driven behaviors meant to mask the truth. Here's a chilling case study. In one real account, a married woman began dressing up more than usual, not just for work but even for casual outings. Her husband thought she was finally caring about herself again. But when questioned, she deflected with vague excuses: I just feel like it, or I want to look good for myself. Months later, it turned out she was hiding an affair. Her improved appearance wasn't about self-love at all, it was her way of aligning with her double life. Now, here's the twist: attraction and guilt often overlap. When someone is attracted to a new person, guilt toward their current partner amplifies. This dual force creates what psychologists call a behavioral shift loop. She invests in her appearance to feel attractive, but then also to quiet her guilt. The result? A sudden, noticeable transformation that seems out of place. But the question is, how do you tell the difference? How can you separate genuine self-improvement from something darker? The key lies in context. If she has been talking about personal growth, watching motivational content, or joining new social circles, then her change could be authentic. But if the transformation is sudden, unexplained, and tied to secrecy, like hiding her phone, changing routines, or offering vague answers, it's often a psychological red flag. This is why sudden changes are so unsettling. They carry shadows. They whisper of attraction, or they scream of guilt. And in both cases, the human mind leaves breadcrumbs, if you're willing to look. The language of excuses and deflection. Words are weapons, but they are also shields. When someone is hiding something, especially something as heavy as an affair, their language subtly shifts. They don't need to outright lie. Instead, they begin to rely on excuses, vague phrases, and strategic deflection. This is where dark psychology peels back the mask. Think about it: when a woman is suddenly dressing better, and someone close asks why, her answer usually comes quickly. But does it come with substance? Or is it just a string of empty words? Common phrases include, I just wanted a change. I'm doing this for myself. It's nothing, don't overthink it. These sound harmless. But in psychology, these are what we call deflection phrases. They are designed not to explain, but to end the conversation. The goal isn't to tell the truth, it's to shut down suspicion. Here's the disturbing part: liars often reuse the same excuse over and over. Repetition creates comfort. The guilty mind thinks, if I say the same thing each time, it will sound more believable. But ironically, this monotony is a red flag. People who are genuine usually give varied, detailed answers. People who hide? They recycle. Case study: in one psychological investigation, a husband noticed his wife would dress beautifully for office meetings she never mentioned before. When he asked, she smiled and said, "Oh, just felt like it." Weeks later, the same excuse, word for word. He later discovered those office meetings weren't meetings at all. Her repetition betrayed her. But there's another layer: silence. Sometimes, it's not what is said, it's what isn't. When confronted, a guilty person may hesitate longer than usual, or laugh off the question. In psychology, we call this verbal leakage, tiny cracks in speech that reveal discomfort. A pause that's 1 second too long. A laugh that doesn't fit. A quick change of subject. Notice also the blame shifting. Instead of answering, she may say, "Why are you being so paranoid? You never cared before, why now? Can't a woman just look nice without being interrogated?" This is classic psychological manipulation. By turning the suspicion back on the other person, she avoids accountability. This tactic is often subconscious, but it's effective. The accuser feels guilty for even asking, while the accused walks away untouched. And here's the darkest truth: the more someone hides, the more polished their excuses become. Over time, deception sharpens. Small lies turn into convincing performances. This is why early signs matter most, because once the script is perfected, catching the truth becomes nearly impossible. So, the next time someone's words don't match their actions, listen closely. Not just to what they say, but to how they say it, and what they carefully avoid saying at all. The nonverbal signs that reveal everything. Psychologists often say, the body never lies. And when it comes to secrets, especially something as heavy as an affair, nonverbal signals often expose the truth long before words do. Think about it. A woman might polish her sentences, rehearse her excuses, and even prepare her alibis. But the human body is harder to control. A slight hesitation, a flicker in the eyes, or a nervous gesture, these are leaks from the subconscious. And the subconscious always tells the truth. One of the most common giveaways is eye behavior. When questioned, liars often avoid steady eye contact. They may look away too quickly, blink more than usual, or overcompensate by staring too directly. Both extremes, too little or too much, can be signs of a hidden struggle within. Then there's the micro-expression. These are fleeting facial reactions that last less than half a second, too fast for conscious control, but visible if you're observant. A flash of guilt, irritation, or even excitement can appear before the mask slips back into place. Psychologists like Paul Ekman have proven that micro-expressions are among the most reliable indicators of concealed emotions. Body posture also shifts. Imagine a conversation where you ask, "Why are you dressing differently all of a sudden?" A truthful person might stay open, shoulders relaxed, voice steady. A guilty one may cross their arms, shift weight from foot to foot, or angle their body away, as if physically trying to escape the spotlight. And then, there are incongruences. For example, she says, "I'm just doing this for myself," but her smile doesn't reach her eyes. Or she says, "I don't care what people think," while adjusting her hair and clothes nervously. When words and actions don't match, psychology tells us the truth is in the action, not the words. Case example: a man once suspected his partner was hiding something. She insisted nothing was wrong, but each time he asked, she fiddled with her necklace and tapped her foot rapidly. Later, when her affair came to light, he realized those nervous tics were her body screaming the truth. Even the tone of voice betrays secrets. Pitch may rise when lying, speech may become faster, or there may be more us and ums than usual. Some liars even overprepare, speaking too smoothly, like they are reciting a script. But human speech, when genuine, is naturally imperfect. And here's the chilling part: sometimes, nonverbal cues don't signal guilt, they signal excitement. Studies show that people engaged in secret affairs often display subtle signs of pleasure when talking about their new self. The glow, the energy, the spark, it's less about fashion, and more about the thrill of hidden passion leaking through the body. So, when the words sound perfect but the body feels off, believe the body. Because in dark psychology, the unspoken always speaks louder. The dark truth behind the transformation. Every change has a reason. And in psychology, sudden transformations are rarely random. When a woman suddenly begins dressing better, paying closer attention to her looks, and projecting confidence she never displayed before. It's not just about fashion. It's about psychological need. Here's the uncomfortable truth: sometimes, that need is rooted in the hunger for validation outside the relationship. Affairs don't just begin with secret messages or late-night calls, they often start with small, almost invisible shifts. A new perfume. More time in front of the mirror. A bolder choice of clothes. These aren't just aesthetic changes. They are signals of where her emotional energy is going. Psychologists call this investment redirection. People invest their time, attention, and beauty not where they are, but where they want to be noticed. The effort in appearance is less about their partner at home, and more about a new audience, the one they want to impress. But here's the dark paradox: many women in this situation will insist they are doing it for themselves. And sometimes, that's true: self-growth, self-love, a desire for change. Yet, in the world of human behavior, patterns matter. And when sudden, dramatic effort in appearance coincides with secrecy, avoidance, or subtle guilt, the pattern is too sharp to ignore. Science backs this up. Research on infidelity shows that changes in self-presentation are among the top early warning signs of cheating. Dressing better, hitting the gym, or experimenting with bold new styles often align with attempts to reignite desirability, not just for the partner, but for someone else. Here's where dark psychology cuts deeper: the transformation is not just external, it's internal. Affairs provide a rush of dopamine and adrenaline, a chemical high that reflects in posture, confidence, and yes, style. The clothes are simply the costume for a deeper drama playing out beneath the surface. Case study: in one documented instance, a married woman began investing heavily in her looks after years of indifference. She told her husband she was finally taking care of herself. But subtle signs gave her away: she avoided intimacy at home, grew defensive when questioned, and often left the house dressed far differently than she had for years. Eventually, her affair surfaced. Looking back, her husband admitted, the new clothes weren't just clothes. They were clues. And that is the haunting reality. Clothes are never just clothes. A sudden glow, an unexplained burst of confidence, a new style that feels out of character, all of these may be whispers from the subconscious, signaling a story too dangerous to be told aloud. So, the next time you notice a sudden transformation, ask yourself, is this a journey of self-love, or a silent confession of divided loyalty? Because in the end, psychology teaches us one brutal lesson: when the outside changes too quickly, it's often because the inside is already gone.